Most teenagers never see it coming and don't realize it's happening to them.
That's why the number of teens involved in violent relationships is growing at an alarming rate.
Good evening, I'm Tom Jones.
And I'm Nicole Brady. Tonight, we are proud to bring you a special program called Date Violence to help raise awareness of this problem in New Mexico.
And joining us tonight, the Executive Director of Safe Teen New Mexico, that would be Chris Schuler.
Thanks, Tom. Over the next half hour, we're going to be meeting some of these teenagers who've been in abusive relationships. We'll see the struggles that they went through and also how they were finally able to get out.
And then after the documentary, we'll come back out here live to St. Pius and talk with some teenagers, parents, and experts about abuse in relationships, about how to spot it and what to do about it.
And we have a Facebook page. If you'd like to get involved, you can get on the Facebook page right now. It's at KOB.com.
Now, Date Violence.
Good morning. Thank you all for
Michelle Garcia with the New Mexico Attorney General's Office, the CDC Department.
Paul Weiler, Detective, Las Cruces Police
Ella
Department.
Frank, Karen Wyman with the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
From New Mexico Asian Family Center.
Allen Crime Victims Reparation Commission.
Adult Protective Services.
UNM Department of Emergency Medicine with the Sexual Assault Nurse Examiners Collaborative.
Children, Youth, and Families Department.
With the Roswell Refuge.
Southwest Tribal Epidemiology Center.
Mark Myers, Detective with the City Police.
St. Taurus Probation and Parole. I sit on the board of the Intimate Death Review Panel team, and basically what we do is we go through a bunch of different cases and realize what could have been done to stop a murder from occurring. And a lot of the times what we see is that there just wasn't enough knowledge, there wasn't enough people that were informed about signs that could have avoided this entire situation.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Intimate Partner Violence Death Review Team. You've all received the case that we're going to be discussing this morning. It should be in front of you. This morning we're going to be talking about Jessica, who is a 15-year-old female, and her ex-boyfriend, Michael, who is an 18-year-old male.
This is the case of Jessica and Michael, who had been dating since Jessica was in the 9th grade, which would have meant Michael was in the 11th grade, I believe. They had been dating for about 19 months prior to her murder.
We're recently learning that teen dating violence is a serious public health issue.
1 in 5 women throughout some time in their life will experience some form of domestic violence. The same thing with teen dating violence.
The incidents of dating violence are highest between the onset of adolescence and 25 years of age, not only nationwide, but here in New Mexico. In fact, rates of domestic and dating violence are a bit higher here in New Mexico.
Kids that are experiencing teen dating violence have higher rates of depression, have higher rates of suicidal thoughts. They drop out of school more often. Substance abuse is a terrible problem. And early sexual activity, sexually transmitted diseases, it sets up kids for a lifelong, serious lifelong issues that need to be dealt with and taken seriously.
When they started dating, apparently she had been doing an awful lot of wild and crazy things in high school. She had moved high schools. Parents had moved her into a charter school. She had simmered down a good bit. She had become active in some of the school activities and the swim team.
It's interesting to note that Michael said to Jessica's mom that I have to keep Jessica away from everybody. And when Jessica's mom asked about why that was, he said, because they all drink alcohol and I don't want her involved in that stuff again.
I think the sad part here is the fact that this family had invited this young man into their house. They trusted him. They felt that he was very protective and helping in the situation, having no idea by watching this that he was actually controlling her rather than protecting her.
It'll usually just start out as, you know, you should really change that skirt that you're wearing because it's too short.
He was really controlling, and I don't know, he's very possessive of them, and he won't let them talk to any of their friends or anything.
It doesn't always have to be like physical. It's just like it's verbal and mentally. Like they always do their little mind games, like going after like their weaknesses, like if they're tall, fat, too skinny, they just call them different names.
Freshman year, my best friend was actually in an abusive relationship, and she didn't even realize what was going on.
Well, at first, everything was like all happy-go-lucky, like a normal relationship, I suppose. And then he started texting me a lot more and like wondering where I was, but I didn't really think anything of it. I just kind of thought it was normal, you know? And then he got to the point where he didn't want me to hang out with my friends at all. Like if I wanted to go hang out with my girlfriends, he'd tell me no, and if I did, that he'd like break up with me or whatever.
We were friends before we were anything else. We were just really good friends at first.
He was doing the kinds of things that a overly protective boyfriend was doing. He was controlling, in fact, who she was talking to and communicating with. It doesn't appear that the parents got that distinction. On the one hand, he was attentive. On the other hand, he was protective. On the other hand, he was controlling.
Ironically, they saw him as a safety factor.
So one of the things that I see in this is some really classic examples of power and control and building up over time, starting with, oh, I just want to spend time with you, you're so important to me, I want to protect you from these other influences, then becoming I can't live without you, and really escalating into higher and higher danger over time. And I think that escalation is part of what makes it hard for friends and family to see what's going on.
One of the first things that happens is there's this giant power differential just with the differences in their ages also, and especially at that age.
You know, neither one of them appeared to know what a healthy relationship was or what, you know, was involved in a healthy relationship. And signs of that would involve the fact that they were looking at each other's cell phone. You know, they had jealousy issues.
He would just get like so jealous, even if she just waved to them in the hallway. Sometimes it would get so violent that he would just yell at her and be like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this to me. Why are you saying you love me when you really don't and you're talking to all these other people?
For the other person, it becomes like they're normal, like, oh, they're just being really loving, they care about me, things like that. And
they never see it. They think that, oh no, this can never happen to me.
You're seeing all this affection and attention as being love instead of possession or obsession over you.
And then I was talking to this guy one day, and he like pulled me aside, and he's like, don't talk to him, he wants to get with you or whatever. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. And I got mad, and I was like walking through the parking lot, and he like grabbed me and like threw me against his truck. And he's like, don't talk to him again, and if you don't listen to me, I know you don't love me.
He friends, like, I have my best friends, my first best friend, he's a gay guy, and he didn't like me talking to him. He didn't want me talking to my mom.
And at that point, I knew I really had a problem. But I still didn't break up with him for like another 3 months, I suppose. I guess I was scared that if I did break up with him, I wouldn't really have a life and no one would love me because my friends, I hadn't hung out with them in forever. And he had like so much control over my life, I didn't know if I could do it by myself anymore.
I think a lot of times the reasons why they don't say anything is that they're afraid of losing those relationships. So maybe today she's angry at her boyfriend or she's afraid of him, but by telling her mother or father, then he's possibly removed from her life. And I think that is a key point for many teenagers, that it's that fear of losing that.
And the other thing is, I think a lot of times women and even girls get in a situation like this and they feel helpless. And they know that sometimes they're not going to be believed when they do say something.
I'd like to go back to the cell phone issue for a minute. I don't think people understand how important that cell phone is to an adolescent child these days, and how much ability there is to control somebody through the cell phone, and not just by taking their cell phone. We talked about what a big deal it was for him to have actual control over her cell phone and monitor her texts. But it's also a way to control behavior.
Young people are more vulnerable, I believe, than adults to something called technological abuse. And that's where technology becomes a weapon for dating violence. And that can happen through frequent overuse of texting or texting constantly.
I have a friend right now who has a girlfriend, constantly texting him, calling him, and like just all that messaging, you know, trying to like wanting him, you know, for herself.
I was dating this person who would obsessively text me all the time, like every 3 minutes, like on the clock, every 3 minutes. Just like, where are you? What are you doing now? Can we hang out? You want to go hang out right now, right now, right now?
They would text me like every single hour or every single 30 minutes, and it was crazy and ridiculous because I was like, I'm in school right now and I can't be texting you while I'm in school, and you're in school too.
And the other thing that's big with the adolescents these days are sending the sexting messages to each other. They'll take their shirt off and they'll take a picture of themselves nude and send it to a boyfriend. Well, that's a huge lever for an abuser to say, look, if you try to leave me or you try to move on to somebody else, I'm going to send this picture to everybody I know. It's going to be on the internet.
Another important piece is about social networking sites. A lot of teens are on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, those kinds of sites. And that gives abusers a lot of information about where folks are at, what's going on in their life.
So technological abuse is when one person, you know, stalks someone through the internet, through Facebook or MySpace. It's a way for them to know the activities of that other person.
And he stalked me for a really long time and like wouldn't leave me alone, and he called me like all the time, and he did try and text me on MySpace and stuff, and I freaked out and erased my MySpace.
When somebody is constantly texting, constantly calling, monitoring that person's social networking page on Facebook or MySpace, and constantly demanding for that person to be available. So that's a major warning sign, and that is something we're seeing escalating because technology is so pervasive now with youth.
Like, I've heard they use GPS now to track where your partner is, and like that's, you know, creepy.
Stalking a person through the use of GPS technology, looking at their texting or their emails to monitor where they are. And also kind of looking at their social networking sites all become a way for a person perpetrating domestic or teen dating violence to start tracking what's happening with teens. So that's how they monitor them.
Parents really should be monitoring their child's information on those websites.
The problem is that some parents don't even know what Facebook is. So we've got this knowledge gap between teens and their parents that makes it very difficult for parents to monitor what their teens are doing on a daily basis.
One of the parenting skills that we need in this, decade is how to get into those kind of social networking sites and how to peruse them.
It's also not always about social networking sites. It's just about, in general, being a part of your kid's life. Talk to them when they come home from school. Find out who their friends are. See who they're talking to on the phone. If they're staying up late at night in chat rooms, stuff like that. It's not so much just following every move that they do. It's just being a part of their lives and being able to talk to them.
There's a national study that shows that most parents don't know when their youth are being abused, whether they're experiencing technological abuse or physical or emotional abuse. So it is coming as a shock to parents. Parents are just now learning that dating is starting as early as age 13. I also think some parents don't take it as seriously. They perceive these relationships as not being as serious as young people think they are. So they kind of minimize it and think, oh, well, this is just a phase that will go away. But parents absolutely need to get involved because there are serious consequences that come from dating violence.